Hi, this is Julie at Love's Beginning with a blog post called Preferring What is Real. When you feel fear, we ask you to consider the word prefer. In some way, you have preferred the state of contraction and reliance of false self. In fact, there is a layer of fear to which you willingly attached that keeps you in the perception that you are this false self. The false self is no more than a conglomeration of egoic thought, a false thought. When you allow the false thought to fall away, the false self cannot hold together, cannot continue to run things. Why would you prefer fear? It is because you think the alternative, that which the busyness of fear is covering up, is infinitely worse. You think the alternative to fear would destroy you, because you are identifying as a conglomeration of egoic thought. Seeing directly through egoic thought to the truth of the love you are, the false self is set down, seen as useless. If you stop identifying as this self, you have nothing to lose. There is no threat in returning to the full awareness of what you are. Why would you consider fear to be protective? Reliance upon fearful thought preserves the sense of separate and vulnerable self. There is a belief that this self, one that can be harmed, one that can do harm, is you. Are you ready to surrender that belief now? It is no more you than it is anyone else. If you hold on to the idea of the reality of false selves, you will continue to have experiences that encourage the idea that separate selves can harm and be harmed. Are you ready to surrender this now? Let's go into surrender. Just by seeing the truth that you have been clinging to a false self, by seeing the truth of what all are, you do surrender. Trust builds, seemingly over time, and you do allow all ideas of false selves to fall away because you can clearly recognize them as suffering. Attachment to fear indicates a willingness to suffer. As you begin to see truth, you become less and less willing to suffer. There is something fearless that will take over for the false you. You are fully worthy of release from suffering, as all are, right now. There has never been anything wrong with any of you, and there never will be anything wrong with any of you. However, you can engage collectively in a fantasy in which you find things that are wrong. You also find things that earn a definition of rightness, because you can compare them to the things that you have labeled wrong. All of this is essentially meaningless, this tug between opposites that could never truly exist. When you feel conflict, remember this. You are engaging in a fantasy, and the physical world you experience has the job of proving to you that your thoughts are true. You are experiencing conflict because you prefer an identity that depends on conflict and hierarchy to exist. When you can see all as having the same non-physical identity, you can see that you hold the key to the end of suffering. The false you is a thought structure remembered. Ego sends the thoughts that make it up, that maintain and enlarge it. Ego sends the thought, I want to be in control, indicating that a self that does not truly exist wants control. To have an experience of a self that does not truly exist being in control, you have to experience a fantasy. Are you ready for what is real today? When you understand that this fantasy you made must include the experience of suffering, you become willing to allow healing. All true healing is of the mind. What you already are, what you always have been, is stronger than fear. It is very safe to allow it to take over because safety is all that truly exists. When you allow true self to take over, you allow safety to shine into the fantasy. Share the beauty of what can shine into the fantasy by stopping and realigning to reality every time you see that your thoughts have taken flight into fantasy again. We are here to speak to the ones who are listening. When you allow yourselves to awaken, your brothers and sisters awaken too. It doesn't matter who goes first, as long as somebody does. We celebrate the beauty of you, and the beauty you will share today as you allow love's thoughts to guide you. Thanks for listening.